Welcome back to my channel. What if everything you thought you knew was a lie? What if a single piece of hidden evidence could shatter a family's public image, expose a web of deception, and rewrite the story of an American television dynasty? Tonight, we are not just watching a family drama unfold, we are witnessing a real-time legal and ethical catastrophe. The master plan has finally unraveled. Amy Roloff has been fully exonerated after Chris Marek pulled off the impossible and recovered the deleted security footage from the Roloff Farms cloud server. You have to see this to believe it. This isn't just about a fall in a pumpkin patch. This is about a calculated act that spiraled into attempted character assassination. Strap in, because the narrative you've been sold on, Little People, Big World, is about to be dismantled, frame by damning frame. We're going deep into the evidence, the testimony, and the stunning fallout that has one former star facing not just public shame, but potentially devastating financial ruin and jail time. Let's rewind to the genesis of this scandal. The public story began on a crisp October afternoon at Roloff Farms, amid the chaos of the annual pumpkin season. Tourists were milling about, children were laughing, and the smell of pumpkin spice filled the air. But behind the festive facade, a storm was brewing. According to the initial police report, filed by Karen Chandler, a physical altercation occurred near the iconic Red Barn. Karen claimed that a heated verbal argument with Amy Roloff, stemming from long-simmering tensions over the farm sale and family dynamics, escalated dramatically. She stated that Amy, in a fit of rage, shoved her forcefully. Karen described falling backwards, her arms pinwheeling, landing awkwardly in a patch of loose soil and pumpkin vines. She claimed she suffered immediate pain in her wrist and lower back. Witnesses, reportedly coordinated by Matt Roloff, gave statements to the police that seemed to corroborate a version of events where Amy was the aggressor. The image was painted clearly. Amy Roloff, the bitter ex-wife, had finally snapped. The police, acting on these statements and the visible distress of Karen Chandler, took the report seriously. Misdemeanor assault charges were recommended against Amy. For the public, it was a shocking tabloid headline: LPBW star Amy Roloff charged with assault. The court of public opinion began to weigh in, and the whispers started. Was Amy truly capable of this? Or was there another, more sinister, layer to this story? Here is where the first major red flag appeared. In any modern investigation, especially one involving a commercial property like Roloff Farms, digital evidence is king. The farm is peppered with security cameras, a fact well known to viewers of the show. They are there for safety, for liability, and for operational oversight. Naturally, when the police requested the footage from the cameras covering the area of the alleged assault, it was considered the single piece of evidence that would conclusively prove what happened. But when investigators followed up, they were given a story that should have made any tech-savvy person's eyebrows hit the ceiling. Matt Roloff, representing the farm, provided a written statement claiming that a catastrophic, localized power surge had hit the farm's security server room precisely during the time of the incident. This surge, he alleged, corrupted the data and caused a complete failure of the storage drive housing the relevant footage. He presented a technician's report, later revealed to be from a contractor with very close ties to Matt, stating the data was unrecoverable. The timing was, as the police noted in their follow-up report, highly coincidental. But without the footage, the case rested on witness testimony. And the witnesses, as we would later learn, were telling a story scripted by someone else. Matt's explanation was a digital curtain, drawn shut to hide the truth. He positioned himself as a helpless victim of faulty technology, a narrative that began to crack under the slightest scrutiny. Why were no other systems on the same grid affected? Why was there no backup, no cloud sync? The questions were mounting, but without the footage, they remained just that, questions. While the legal wheels turned slowly and the public speculated, someone refused to accept the narrative. Chris Marek, Amy's husband, operated not from a place of loud confrontation, but from quiet, determined resolve. He knew Amy. He knew her character. And he knew the technological story being peddled didn't add up. Chris, leveraging his own professional network outside the Roloff sphere, began a parallel, private investigation. His first stop, understanding the farm's actual security system. Through discreet inquiries with former farm employees and cross-referencing equipment seen on the show, he identified the manufacturer and model of the primary surveillance system. What he discovered was crucial. It was a modern, commercial-grade system that didn't just store footage locally on a single hard drive. As a standard feature, it performed continuous, incremental backups to a cloud-based server, a digital safety net for exactly this kind of data loss scenario. The company's terms of service clearly stated that deleted or corrupted footage from the local device often remained in the cloud archive for a minimum of 90 days before final purging. Matt's story of total, irrecoverable loss was technologically implausible. It was a cover story designed for those who wouldn't look deeper. Chris, armed with this knowledge and acting through Amy's attorney, obtained a fiercely worded subpoena. This wasn't a request. It was a court order demanding the security company provide a complete forensic dump of all cloud data from Roloff Farms for the entire month of the incident. The company, bound by law and unwilling to face liability for obstructing justice, complied. In a secure digital transfer, the deleted footage was recovered. The digital curtain was about to be ripped down. The scene in the courtroom that day was charged with a palpable tension. It was a preliminary hearing, meant to determine if there was enough evidence for the assault case against Amy to proceed to trial. Karen Chandler sat with her lawyer, composed. Matt Roloff was in attendance, offering silent support. Amy and Chris Merrick sat at the defense table, their posture straight. The prosecution had presented its case, the police report, the witness statements, Karen's medical records showing minor bruises. It was a classic, she said, leaning heavily on victim testimony. Then, Amy's defense attorney stood. Your Honor, the defense would like to introduce new evidence into the record. Evidence that not only exonerates my client, but demonstrates a criminal conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. The judge allowed it. A large display screen in the courtroom flickered to life. The timestamp read the exact date and time of the alleged assault. The footage was crystal clear, showing the patch of ground near the red barn from a high-angle, wide shot. There was no audio, but the visuals were devastatingly eloquent. The video showed Karen Chandler and Amy Roloff in a heated discussion. Collapse. Their body language was aggressive, pointed fingers, crossed arms, but there was a clear distance between them. Then, as Amy turned to walk away, the video showed Karen looking around, notably checking the sight lines of the known camera positions. She paused, took a breath, and then performed. She took 2 dramatic, stumbling steps backwards, flinging her arms wide in a theatrical gesture completely disconnected from any visible force or contact. She then collapsed into the pumpkin vines, arranging herself carefully before adopting an expression of pain. A full 5 seconds later, she began calling out. Other people, who had been just out of frame, rushed into the shot, responding to her calls. They had not witnessed the fall. They were responding to its aftermath. The footage continued, showing Matt Roloff arriving, speaking with Karen, and then looking directly up at the camera with a calculating expression before hurrying away. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. The video played again in slow motion at the judge's request. There was no shove. There was no push. There was only a deliberate, staged collapse. Let's break down what we just saw, because the devil is in the details. In real assaults, physics are undeniable. A sudden, forceful shove creates a transfer of energy. The victim's center of gravity is disrupted instantly. They fall in the direction of the force, often trying and failing to break their fall. Their limbs move reactively, not theatrically. Now, examine Karen's movements. First, the look around. This is a critical tell. In a genuine, heated moment ending in violence, one does not scan their environment for cameras or witnesses. The fight or flight response is focused on the threat. Her head swivel was a conscious environmental check. Second, the preparatory steps. After Amy had already turned her back and was walking away, Karen took 2 deliberate, backward steps to position herself in a clearer, more camera-friendly spot, away from a cart that would have partially obscured the view. This is choreography, not conflict. Third, the arm movement. Her arms flew out in a symmetrical, almost balletic arc. In a real fall caused by a shove from the front, one arm might go back, the other might flail forward to grab for something. Her movement was staged for visual effect, the universal body language of "I have been pushed." Fourth, the controlled collapse. She bent her knees and lowered herself down, rather than dropping dead weight. She tucked her head slightly to avoid injury. This is the act of someone protecting themselves during the fall, not someone reacting to a fall. Fifth, the delayed reaction. She hit the ground, arranged her legs, then her face contorted into pain. In real trauma, the cry of pain is simultaneous with the impact. This was a performance with a slight delay, like an actor hitting their mark. This footage wasn't just evidence of innocence, it was a masterclass in bad acting under the pressure of a high-definition lens. After the footage played a second time, the judge didn't need to hear lengthy arguments. The evidence was irrefutable. He addressed the court, and his words were measured, cold, and utterly damning. He first turned to the prosecution. The state's entire case was built on a foundation of witness testimony that this visual evidence now conclusively proves to be fabricated. The court finds the allegation of assault to be completely without merit. Then he looked directly at Karen Chandler and her attorney. What has been presented today is evidence of a deliberate attempt to mislead this court and law enforcement. The theatrical nature of the event captured on video is apparent. Filing a false police report is a serious matter. Providing false testimony is a serious matter. This goes beyond a civil dispute. It strikes at the heart of the judicial system. He then granted the defense's motion for a directed verdict of not guilty, dismissing all charges against Amy Roloff with prejudice, meaning they could never be brought again. But he didn't stop there. He stated for the record that he was referring the matter back to the district attorney's office for a potential criminal investigation into filing a false report and conspiracy. The gavel fell. Amy was officially, legally vindicated. But as the cameras outside the courthouse flashed, a new and more terrifying battle was already being prepared. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a legal reckoning. In the wake of the dismissal, Amy's legal team, armed with the momentum of victory, filed a civil discovery request as part of a new, impending lawsuit. This request compelled the release of phone records and text messages between Matt Roloff, Karen Chandler, and several of the witnesses from the pumpkin patch incident. What these messages revealed was a coordinated narrative control operation. In the hours following the staged fall, a group text thread lit up. Matt's messages were directives. Don't talk to anyone until we get our stories straight. Remember, you saw Amy lose her temper and shove her. You didn't see the lead up, just the push. The cameras were down. A power surge. That's the line. Karen's messages played the victim, but with a worrying focus on perception. My wrist really hurts from the fall. Then, in a later text, do you think the bruise is dark enough? Should I put makeup on it or leave it for the police? One witness expressed hesitation, texting, "This feels wrong." She didn't touch you, Karen. Matt's response was swift and pressurized. Think about the farm. Think about what Amy and Chris are trying to do to us. We have to protect ourselves. This is the only way. Stick to the story. These weren't the panicked messages of people caught in a confusing incident. They were the calculated blueprints of a cover-up. They showed intent, coordination, and a conscious effort to weaponize the legal system against an innocent person. This textual evidence transformed a sad family dispute into a premeditated plot. With her name cleared, Amy Roloff did not retreat. She went on the offensive. Her attorneys filed a massive civil lawsuit naming both Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler as defendants. The core charge, malicious prosecution. This is a specific and very serious legal claim. To win, Amy's team must prove 4 things. 1. That the original criminal case was initiated by Matt and Karen. The text messages and their orchestration of witness statements prove this. 2. That the case was terminated in Amy's favor. The judge's dismissal with prejudice checks this box definitively. 3. That there was no probable cause for the charges. The recovered video footage is the ultimate proof of this. They had no legitimate reason to believe an assault occurred because they knew it didn't. 4. That Matt and Karen acted with malice, meaning with a primary purpose other than bringing a guilty person to justice. The text messages revealing the cover-up, the false power surge story, and the apparent motive to damage Amy's reputation during sensitive farm negotiations all point directly to malice. The lawsuit seeks millions in damages. It itemizes not just legal fees, but compensation for emotional distress, reputational harm, loss of business opportunities related to her public brand, and even punitive damages, meant to punish the defendants for the outrageous nature of their conduct. This suit isn't about an apology, it's about financial and legal accountability. It threatens not just their personal savings, but the very liquidity of Roloff Farms itself, which is likely named as part of the conspiratorial entity. This is an existential threat. The repercussions are radiating outwards like shockwaves. Within the family, the Roloff children are fractured. Some have privately rallied around Amy, horrified by the deception. Others, long financially or emotionally entangled with Matt and the farm, are in an impossible position, their silence speaking volumes. Family gatherings, a staple of the show, are now impossible minefields. The Little People, Big World brand, built on relatable family strife, is now overshadowed by real-life allegations of fraud and conspiracy. Network executives are in crisis meetings. Can the show continue when its central characters are locked in a scorched earth legal war? Financial ruin. The malicious prosecution lawsuit is a financial sword of Damocles. Legal defense alone for Matt and Karen will cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. If Amy prevails, the judgment could be in the multi-millions. Where does that money come from? The farm's assets? The proceeds from Matt's cherished land? Forced sale? This legal battle could literally result in the loss of the very land the entire show was built upon. Criminal exposure. The judge's referral to the district attorney looms large. While criminal cases for false reporting are not always pursued, the high-profile nature of this case, the clear video evidence, and the coordinated cover-up make it a prime candidate for charges. The specter of handcuffs, of mugshots, of a criminal trial is no longer just fan speculation. It is a genuine possibility discussed in legal circles. Karen Chandler and Matt Roloff are not just fighting for their money, they are potentially fighting for their freedom. The narrative has irrevocably flipped. The victim is now the plaintiff. The accusers are now the accused. This saga forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about the world we consume. Little People, Big World presented a curated version of reality for over 2 decades. We watched arguments, reconciliations, weddings, and land deals. But what happens when the stakes move from television ratings to court docket numbers? When storylines are no longer shaped by producers, but by lawyers? This case exposes the dangerous blur between performed conflict and real-world consequence. Did years of having their lives turned into narrative arcs make manipulating reality seem like just another storyline? The pursuit of a good plot or protecting a brand image can, in the harsh light of a courtroom, be revealed as conspiracy. The farm, once a symbol of family perseverance, now risks becoming a monument to its self-destruction. The legal process is slow, methodical, and brutal. As we speak, depositions are being scheduled. Forensic accountants are scouring farm records. Each side is assembling its arsenal for a civil trial that promises to be more dramatic than any season finale. Every text, every email, every financial transaction related to the farm and the family feud will be subpoenaed and examined under oath. The discovery phase alone will be a years-long process of unearthing secrets. So, where do we go from here? The road ahead is paved with legal filings. Next, we will see Matt and Karen's attorneys file a motion to dismiss Amy's civil lawsuit. They will argue the texts are being misinterpreted, that they genuinely believed an assault occurred in the moment, and that the power surge was an honest mistake. This motion will likely fail, given the strength of the video evidence. Then, the case will move into the discovery phase, a brutal, invasive process. Amy's lawyers will demand all farm financials, all communications between Matt, Karen, and TLC producers, and full access to the farm's security system logs and IT contractors. They will depose every witness from the pumpkin patch, pressing them on the instructions they received. They will depose Matt Roloff for days, grilling him on his knowledge of the cloud backup system, his conversations with the technician, and his true motivations. They will depose Karen Chandler, forcing her to explain, under penalty of perjury, her physical actions in that video frame by frame. Parallel to this, the public will watch the DA's office. Will they file criminal charges? The pressure to do so is immense. A failure to prosecute such a clear-cut case of false reporting, caught on the defendant's own cameras, would set a troubling precedent. Furthermore, the IRS or other agencies could take interest if any farm funds were used to facilitate the cover-up, opening the door to charges of fraud or misuse of business assets. The walls are closing in from multiple directions. Every public appearance by any member of the family will be dissected. Every social media post will be read as a signal. The quiet moments on the farm are over. They have been replaced by the relentless churn of litigation. Beyond the legal jargon and the dollar figures lies an incalculable human cost. This is a family. These are parents, children, and grandchildren. Holidays, birthdays, the simple act of sharing a meal, all poisoned by betrayal and litigation. For Amy, the vindication is bittersweet. To be proven right meant proving that people she once loved and shared a life with were capable of trying to destroy her. For the Roloff children, they are forced to choose, to pick sides in a war where there are no true winners, only varying degrees of loss. The grandchildren may grow up with this legal battle as a backdrop to their childhood, the family legacy one of courtrooms instead of pumpkin patches. The trust is annihilated. Even if the lawsuits were to settle tomorrow, the damage is permanent. There is no getting the band back together for a final, happy season. The show, if it continues, becomes a documentary of a divorce not just between a couple, but between a family and its own history. The narrative of Roloff Farms is now forever split into before the fall and after the footage. And as the legal machinery grinds forward, promising more revelations, more shocking testimony, and more devastating confrontations, one thing is certain: the story is far, far from over. The next chapter is being written in legal briefs and deposition transcripts, and it promises to be the most shocking season yet. If you thought the initial revelation of the staged fall was the climax of this story, you are mistaken. It was merely the opening act. The dismissal of criminal charges was not an ending, but a detonation, a blast that has cracked open the very foundations of Roloff Farms, revealing fissures and secret chambers no viewer ever imagined. We are now in the aftermath, where the real excavation begins. This is the phase where truth is not discovered in a single dramatic moment, but unearthed, piece by painful piece, through the cold, mechanical process of the law. Depositions, subpoenas, forensic audits. Each document a shard of a larger, uglier mirror. And in that reflection, we are starting to see not just a family feud, but a potential pattern of deception that spans years, possibly touching the very television show that made them famous. The civil lawsuit for malicious prosecution is the engine driving this discovery, and it is an engine designed to demolish walls. So, let's move forward. Let's examine what has happened since the judge's gavel fell, and where this legal labyrinth is leading next. First, the immediate aftermath. The public reaction was a tsunami of support for Amy Roloff. Social media, which had been a battleground of speculation, hardened into a consensus of outrage. Hashtags like #JusticeForAmy and #RoloffReckoning trended. But more consequentially, brands and sponsors associated with the Roloff family began a quiet, frantic review of their contracts. Morality clauses, standard in public-facing partnerships, were being scrutinized. For Amy, this meant a surge in supportive messages and, even new offers, a public vindication that translated into commercial opportunity. For Matt and Karen, it meant a chilling silence from business partners and a flood of negative comments that made their social media accounts unmanageable. They went dark, a tactical retreat that their lawyers undoubtedly advised. But you cannot retreat from a subpoena. The first legal salvo after the lawsuit was filed was, as predicted, a motion to dismiss from the attorneys for Matt Roloff and Karen Chandler. Their argument was a masterpiece of minimization. They claimed the text messages showed nothing more than family members in a state of shock and confusion, consolidating their recollections of a traumatic event. They argued that Karen's genuine belief that she was assaulted, a belief formed in the heat of the moment, constituted probable cause, regardless of what later video evidence showed. The power surge story was framed as an innocent, if unfortunate, technical misunderstanding relayed in good faith by a farm employee to a distressed Matt Roloff. They painted Amy's lawsuit as itself an act of vengeance, a strategic lawsuit against public participation designed to punish them for exercising their right to report a crime. They begged the court to see this as a private, familial disagreement tragically escalated, not a malicious legal conspiracy. It was a plea for the court to look away. And the judge, in a tersely worded order, denied the motion in its entirety. The judge's denial was another body blow. He wrote that, at this early stage, the plaintiff, Amy, had pleaded sufficient factual allegations that, if proven, could establish by clear and convincing evidence that the original criminal proceeding was initiated with malice and without probable cause. He singled out the text messages coordinating the power surge story and the witness statements as plausible evidence of a concerted effort to fabricate a narrative. He noted that the objective video evidence fundamentally contradicts the defendant's reported version of the central event, calling their subjective beliefs into serious question. With that, the lawsuit survived its first hurdle. The metaphorical castle gates were breached. The discovery phase, the legal term for the forced exchange of all relevant information, was now officially open. And what followed was a blizzard of paper and digital requests that would overwhelm any normal person. Amy's legal team, led by a fiercely competent litigator named Samantha Cruz, filed their first set of interrogatories and requests for production. The list was exhaustive, designed to be oppressive, to leave no stone unturned. It included all communications between Matt, Karen, and any Roloff family member, employee, or TLC producer regarding Amy Roloff, Chris Merrick, the farm sale, or the incident for a period of 2 years before and after the fall. Complete financial records for Roloff Farms LLC and Matt and Karen's personal finances, including tax returns, bank statements, and records of all payments from TLC and any merchandising deals. All contracts and correspondence with TLC concerning storyline development, character portrayal, and any discussions about conflict or drama involving Amy. Full access to the farm's entire digital infrastructure, server logs, IT service records, emails from the technician who reported the power surge, and all data from the security camera company, including metadata showing access, deletion attempts, and backup histories. Diaries, calendars, and personal notes of both defendants. All medical records pertaining to Karen Chandler's alleged injuries from the fall, including the names of all treating physicians who were to be deposed. The goal was not just to win the lawsuit, but to create a density of evidence so overwhelming that a settlement, a very expensive, apology-laden settlement, would become the only rational option. But to understand the pressure this creates, you must understand the deposition. A deposition is not a trial. It is a sworn testimony taken in a conference room, with a court reporter transcribing every word, every pause, every "I don't recall." There is no judge present to protect you. Just your lawyer, opposing counsel, and hours of relentless, detailed questioning designed to lock you into a story and find every inconsistency. The first wave of depositions has now been scheduled, and the witness list is a who's who of the Roloff universe. The first to sit in the hot seat will be the witnesses, the farm employees and family friends who gave initial